Welcome to Saturday Shred Show. I am your host, Chris Groh, and this is the internet's most stoked surfboard show, now with new episodes every Saturday. Shout out to Luke Barker. You are our winner from last episode. We're sending you a pair of our nets, and since so many of you commented last time, we're giving away 2 pairs this week. More on how you can win a pair of these in a couple minutes. In the comment section of our last episode, a lot of you asked for the Mutant, so that's what we're talking about today. The first person to tell me about this board was shred nationalist Angus MacDonald, who claimed that this was the board for slopey waves under neck high. One thing we all know is that when you take length away from a shortboard, you have to add width or thickness to make up for the volume that you're losing in the length. I think for many surfers, there comes a point in your shortboards where if you surf a board any shorter, you start to feel like you're surfing on top of the water because of how much volume you have in the width of your board and in full rails. But if you keep your shortboards longer than that point, you can still feel like you're surfing down in the water because you haven't got so wide and thick in your board to compensate for an absence of length. Did I screw that up? To compensate for an absence of length. The Mutant is probably where a lot of surfers would draw the line, saying that the rail is pinched enough and the thickness of the board thin enough at the stringer that you can still sink a rail going across the face of a wave or in a bottom turn. Compare that to a shorter board with a fuller rail holding more volume, or a much shorter board with much more width, and you may feel like that kind of a board flat turns better above the water. Whereas a board like this, you might feel like you really can bury your rail and surf down in the water more, even feeling G-force push back on the bottom of your feet if you can really push it into a turn. A stock 5'8" Mutant would come in at 20.25 inches wide, 32 liters of volume, and 2.375 inches thick. But this one is 5'8" and a half by 20.5 inches in width, with 34.37 liters of volume and 2.5 inches of thickness. So why is mine a half inch longer, a quarter inch wider, and 0.125 inches thicker? Mostly because I told Roberts what I wanted to feel under my feet, and they came up with the dimensions, but also because the surfboard industry is a lot like another industry that you probably love. The fashion industry. When a new clothing line comes out, the new clothing is always sized according to fit models. So if you go to the mall fatter than most people as tall as you, you're gonna end up in t-shirts that are too tight. Well, in the surf industry, you may walk into a surf shop weighing more than most people your height and think that you need to buy a surfboard too long to get more volume in it, when really the shaper designed it to be ridden by someone of your skill level shorter. My board is 5'8" and a half because it allows me to get the performance out of this board that Roberts had in mind when he designed this model, and it allows me to do it without having to go too long to blow the whole point of surfing a board like this. It also lets me get right down to that certain length that I need to still have a lack of width and a lack of volume in the rails so that I can have a board for small waves that still lets me feel like I'm surfing down in the water. And that's why talking to your shaper increases your quality of life by a factor of 10. When you surf this board, you'll probably find that the tail is a little bit too wide to go really good as a 3-fin, but the tail is not so wide that you need to surf it with really big quad trailers. When you set up any of your shortboards as a quad, the general rule that you follow is that the wider your tail gets, the bigger your quad trailers get. That's because when we have more surface area in our tail, we need more surface area in our fins to help give that tail some direction instead of just spinning out of control. On this board, with a tail that is not just a wide squash tail coming out like this, I can surf this with a FCS MF1 lead and a GXQ trailer. And when we hold these side by side, you can see that the GXQ trailer is clearly much smaller than the MF1 lead. And you can see what I mean if I hold the fin in front of my shirt. I think this is a board that you might really like in 2 different situations. First, a crumbly reef break that's really flat-faced with just a few little wally sections. Second, a crumbly beach break that's weak on the outside and pitching on the inside. In a weak reef break, the width and double concave of this board will allow you to draw out your bottom turns or hang out in the whitewater of a flat-faced wave while you wait for the next section to wall up again. Then the pinched rail and the swallowtail will provide responsiveness and hold through the good sections. At a funky beach break, this board will help you be competitive with longboarders on the outside because of how wide the board is. Then you can set yourself up for an inside closeout section where the board will be responsive because of the pinched rail, and you can get a little baby barrel, whack the lip, whatever you're into. To possibly win one of 2 pairs of sunglasses from Arnett, drop a comment below telling us where you live and what the waves are like today. In about a week, we'll pick 2 of you and we'll ask for your address and we'll send you some new shades from Arnett. That does it for this episode. If you've ever surfed the Roberts Mutant, tell us what you think in the comments below. If you like the video, click like, not the thumb, but the button below the video on the left. We hope the waves are up wherever you are, and we will see you next Saturday.